let's continue our discussion about the sexual reproduction in flowering plant. So, what we have discussed so far, where we have discussed about the flower. What we have discussed about the different parts, and mainly what we have discussed about the male sex organ. We have discussed about the female sex organ, and we have also discussed about the different mechanisms of pollination, which is actually either by the self pollination or the cross pollination. Now, and we have within the male sex organ, we have discussed about the development of sex organ, and we have also discussed about the development of male gametophyte. Similarly, for the female sex organ, we have developed about the development of female sex organ, and then we have also discussed about the development of female gametophyte. So, now today we are going to start about the so in an event of sexual reproduction, what happen is that you the male sex organ is forming the male gametes, and the female sex organ is developing the female gametes, and then these two gametes are coming together. So, in the case of plant, the male gamete is traveling from the male plant and goes into the female plant, and then they both fused with the process known as the fertilization. So, what is mean by fertilization is that fusion of male and female gametes, and the fertilization is a very complicated process. It is governed by the it has multiple steps. So, what are these steps? So, let us during the fertilization, we have multiple steps, and you can imagine that you have a plant like a flower like this, where you have, this is called stigma, this is the style. So, this is the female sex organ, and this is the ovary. Within the ovary you have the ovule, and where the where the fertilization take place. So, this is the ovule. Okay. So, normally the pollen grains fall here, okay, and then pollen tubes travel within the style, and then it reaches to the ovary, and then eventually it reaches to the ovule, and then it releases the male gametes, and that is how it facilitates the fertilization. So, in this process we have three different events. Number one, growth of the pollen tube. So, that is this one. So, as soon as the pollen grains falls onto the stigma, it does the first step, that is the growth of the pollen tube. Then entry of pollen tube into the ovule. This means this is the second step when the pollen tube travels all the way from stigma, style, and then it enters into the ovary. And number 3, then it is called as the fertilization, when there will be a fusion of male and female gametes. So, this is the third step where the male gametes are going to be released from the pollen tube, and then they will fuse with the female gametes. After this, the fertilization, we have couple of post fertilization events. So, once the fertilization happens, as I said, it is a double fertilization. So, fertilization happens with the 2 times and 2 different places. So, that is how it actually we are going to discuss about the development of endosperm. Number 2, development of embryo. Number 3, apart from embryo, flowers are also developing, also forming the seeds. And lastly, the development of fruits. Okay. So, let us start our discussion starting with the fertilization. So, what is happening during the fertilization? And we will start with the first process, that is the growth of the pollen tube. So, as soon as the pollen grains falls onto the stigma, and you know that the stigma is a place where the mutual recognition of the pollen grains with the stigma take place, and that is all done by the recognition factors present on pollen grain and stigma. So, these recognition factors are working just like the receptor and ligand kind of situation. So, the set of pollen grains are only allowed or will recognized by the stigma, and those are the only system which actually going to give a pro-stimulatory effect into the pollen grains to start taking up the nutrition from the stigma and then start growing. So, this recognition actually helps in stimulating the metabolism within the pollen grain, and as soon as the metabolism is stimulated within the pollen grain, so as soon as the recognition take place between the pollen grain and the stigma, that allows the stimulation of the production of proteolytic enzyme from the pollen grains. And so, what happens is, as soon as the pollen grains falls onto the stigma, it starts getting the wet. So, it take up the water from the stigma, and in the presence of water as well as the moisture, the pollen grain starts growing. So, in that process, at some places the intine comes out through a unique projecture, and this is all we have discussed in the previous class. And in this process, the pollen grain require the nutrition. So, it take up the nutrition from the stigma, and in this process it also stimulates the metabolic activity within the pollen grain to produce the enzyme. So, because the stigma, this particular portion has to be degraded, so that the pollen tube should travel throughout the style. In most of the plants, the style part is hollow, but the top portion is having a mass. So, that has to be degraded so that it makes a path for the pollen tube to grow. and in that way the pollen tube actually secretes large quantities of proteolytic enzyme. So, then it started the production of what are these proteolytic enzymes? Proteolytic enzymes are already mostly belonging to enzymes which are either the proteolytic pectinase or the hydrolytic enzymes. So, pectinase is actually degrading the cell wall of the cells which are adjoining together and making the stigma. So, that it will give a passage, it will make a passage for the pollen tube to grow within the style, and it will also helps in getting into the entry into the ovary part or into the ovule. Whereas, the hydrolytic enzymes are actually degrading the biomass, so that it will produce the monomeric constituents, and that actually will give you the energy for the growth of the pollen tube. Because initially the pollen tube take up the nutrition from the pollen grain itself, but later on it completely take up the nutrition from the female reproductive organ, means from the stigma, and that is how it grows. This pollen tube is an extension of the intine. Now, the second step is the entry of pollen tube into the ovary. So, the second step is the entry of pollen tube into the ovule. So, as you can see on the given PowerPoint slide, we have given the various steps which are involved into the entry of pollen tube into the ovule. So, in the process of pollen tube entry into the ovule, after reaching the ovary, the pollen tube enters the ovule through either from the so, the pollen tube has three different directions to enter into the ovule. Either it will enter through the micropyle site, or it will enter into the casal end, or it will sometime enters laterally into the ovule. So, if it enters through the micropylar site, this process is known as the porogamy. If it enters to the casal end, then it is called as the casalogamy, and then if on a rare cases, if it enters laterally by piercing the wall of the ovule, then it is called as the mesogamy. The most common way of entry of pollen tube into the ovule is porogamy, and which is very common. In rare cases, it follows the other passages, that means the chalazogamy or the mesogamy. As we had discussed in the previous class itself, that the embryo sac consists of three different types of cells. It contains three antipodal cells, one secondary nucleus which is present in the center, and the two synergids and an egg. Two synergids and the egg actually constitute the egg apparatus which is present on the micropylar end of the embryo sac. The synergids are actually taking part actively in facilitating to guide the growth of the pollen tube. So, as soon as the pollen tube enters into the ovule, the synergids secretes the some chemicals, means they are actually secreting the chemicals which are actually a chemoattractant for the incoming pollen tubes, and the tip of the pollen tube actually inserts into one of the synergids. The penetrated pollen tube the penetrated synergates start degenerating. So, as soon as the pollen tube enters into one of the synergates, it starts showing the degradation, and after the penetration, the tip of the pollen tube enlarges and ruptures to release the male gametes, two male gametes, and the vegetative nucleus into the synergates. After this, it follows the fertilization. So, fertilization is also having the multiple steps, and it is very complicated. So, let us see how the fertilization take place in the class of in the case of the angiospermic plant. So, the fertilization is as I said, it is a double fertilization, means the fertilization happens twice, first with the polar nuclei and the second time with the egg. So, the one male gamete. So, as you might have seen in the previous slide, that on two male gametes enters into the embryo sac through the egg apparatus. So, one of the male gametes fused with the egg to form the diploid zygote, and which is present on this side, and the other male gametes fuses with the polar nuclei to form the diploid primary endosome nucleus. This process is called as the triple fusion or the vegetative fusion. These two acts of fertilization, means the fertilization happens twice, is called as the double fertilization. Post fertilization, the resulting ovule or resulting ovule develop into the multiple thing. So, let us discuss what are these, what happened after the post fertilization. Once the fertilization is over, the many part of the flower actually loses its function. For example, what are the flower, what are the plants are present, what are the parts are present in the flower. So, in the flower we have the calyx, we have corolla, then we have the stamen, and we have the pistil. So, corolla is only been required for attracting the insects and facilitating the process of pollination. So, corolla is, as soon as the fertilization happens, it dropped from the flower, means it get completely dried up and there is no corolla present in the stamen. Also goes for the similar kind of aging and dehydration, it falls from the developing flower. In some cases, the calyx remains attached with the developing embryo or developing flower, and example in this case where the calyx remain associated with the after the post fertilization is in the case of brinjal and tomato. So, you might have noticed that the many of these kind of flowers, many of these kind of fruits normally contains the leafy material on the top, and that is nothing but the calyx part. The major event what happens after the post fertilization. So, during the fertilization, it is double fertilization. One of the male gamete is fusing with the polar nuclei, and the other male gamete is fusing with the egg to form the zygote. So, so you have two individuals. So, first thing what happen is there is a development of endosperm. From triploid nucleus, which is formed after the fusion of first male gamete with the polar nuclei. Number 2, so endosperm can be of multiple types depending on the type of nuclear division which are going to take place. It could be nuclear, it could be cellular, or it could be the halobial. So, there is no much difference between them except that the kind of cell division and the kind of nuclear division these three endosperms are following during their development. Then the other kind of fertilization take place with the egg to form the zygote. The zygote will develop into the embryo. So, the zygote will develop into embryo. Number 3, the ovule will develop into seed, and the complete ovary is going to develop into the fruit. So, let us start with the first thing, how the endosperm is developed, and the function of the endosperm is always been to provide the nutrition for the developing embryo, and there are 3 different types of developmental stages could be possible in the case of endosperm. It could be nuclear, it could be cellular, or it could be halobial. So, let us see how these 3 different mode of development, endospermic development take place. So, as you can see on the PowerPoint slide, I have given the different stages of endospermic development in the case of nuclear type of endosperm. So, nuclear type of endosperm is the most common type of endosperm which is found in the angiospermic plant. So, in this case what happen is that the primary endospermic nucleus which is formed and which is actually the diploid is formed within the endosperm, within the present in the endosperm. So, in the nuclear type of endosperm development, the primary endosperm nucleus divide by a multiple mitotic division without forming the cell wall. So, there are multiple nucleus which are going to be formed without forming the cell wall, and it results in the formation of large number of free nuclei into the central cell of the embryo sac. Then a big central vacuole is going to be, so you can see there are multiple nuclei which are formed without forming the cell wall, and then it forms a big central vacuole into the embryo sac, pushing all the nuclei to the peripheral cytoplasm. So, that as soon as it forms a vacuole in the beginning, in the middle or in the center, that actually pushes all the nuclei on the periphery of the embryo sac, and after that the second phase started where the multiple cleavage happens and all the multinucleated all the nucleus which are present on the periphery of the endosperm then gets its cell wall, and finally all or most of the endosperm is converted. So, after that it becomes a cellular tissue mass, and that is how the endosperm is developed. So, the classical example in this case is the coconut. So, you might have seen the white color mass of a coconut which is actually always been developing on the periphery, and that is nothing but the endosperm in the case of coconut. The nuclear endosperm, as I said in the beginning itself, is the most common type of endosperm which is found in the case of angiospermic plant. Now, the second class is known as the cellular endosperm, cellular type of endosperm development. In the cellular type of endosperm, the first nuclear division of the primary endosperm nucleus is followed by the formation of either a longitudinal or the transverse cell wall in the central wall. So, in this case, as soon as the division happens, it actually forms the cell wall. Subsequent nuclear division and wall formation results in the formation of a cellular type of endosperm. So, this is completely different because in this case there is no multiple nuclei being formed, or there is no syncytia which is going to be formed, and subsequently there will be a formation of cell wall. And in this case, as soon as the division happens, it basically forms the cell wall as well. The examples in this case are many examples. There are many examples of Petunia, Datura and Balsam, etc. Now, the third mode of endosperm development, that is called as the halobial. So, halobial is actually a mixture of the nuclear as well as the cellular endosperm development. So, in the halobial type of endosperm development, the primary endosperm nuclei moves to the so, in this case you see this is the endosperm where you have a zygote on one end and the antipodal cell on this side. So, this is the triploid nucleus, and as soon as the division happens, it starts moving towards the callosal end. So, the primary endosperm nucleus moves to the callosal end of the embryo sac. The first nuclear division of the primary endosperm nucleus is followed by the formation of a transverse cell, resulting in the formation of a small callosal cell and a large micropolar cells. So, in this case what happens is that it forms a division, and that division actually creates two cells. One is called the callosal cell which is remain toward the callosal side, and a large micropolar side. Nucleus of the large micropolar cell divide then. So, at this stage it is following the cellular the developmental stages of cellular mode, where it is forming the 2 cell or 3 cell or whatever, and after that it follows the nuclear mode of endospermic development, where it just do the multiple division without forming a cell wall. That is what you see here. So, on the micropolar side it forms multiple free nuclei, and then at the end it follows exactly the similar kind of cell wall formation and other kind of events which we have discussed for the nuclear endosperm. Halobial type of endospermic development is more common in the case of the monocot plant, whereas the nuclear type of endospermic development is mostly most common in the case of in the angiospermic plant, especially in the dicot plant. So, once the endosperm is developed, the zygote is going to develop into the embryo. So, let us see, and as you know that we have two different types of plants classes. We have the dicot as well as we have the monocot. So, the embryo development in both the cases are very different. So, let us see how the embryo is developed in the case of a dicot plant. So, these are the different stages which are present in a dicot plant. So, in the case of a typical dicot plant, for example, Capsula or any other dicot plant, the zygote enlarges in size. So, while it is attached to the endospermic cell wall, the zygote enlarges its size, and then ultimately it goes for a unequal division, and as a result of unequal division it forms the two types of cells. One which is slightly bigger in size and which is still attached to the wall is called as the basal suspensory cells, and the other cell which is called as the terminal embryo cell. The large basal cell is called as the suspensor cell because it lies toward the micropylar end of the embryo sac. The smaller terminal cell is called as the embryo cell, embryonal cell, and that is towards the callosal end of the embryo sac. The basal embryos, the embryo, the Spencer cell divide by the transverse division, and the terminal embryonic cell divide by the longitudinal division to form a tetrad. And out of the two cells formed from the transverse division of the suspensor cell, the lowermost cells towards the micropylar end enlarges in size to form the vesicular basal cell, and the other cell divide by a variable number of transverse division to form a long suspensor consisting of a row of 7 to 8 cells. So, this is what is developed, whereas in the case of terminal cell of the tetrad stage of proembryo divide longitudinally forming 4 celled quadrant stage. After the 4 cell quadrant end, each of the 4 cells of the quadrant stage then divide by transverse division to form the 8 celled proembryo or 8 celled octant stage. Now, this is also called as the proembryo. Each of the 8 cells of the octant stage then divide by the periclinal division to form an outer prodromal cell and a inner cell. Consequently, the 8 cell octant now becomes 16 cells. This means the 8 external prodental cells and the 8 internal cells. Now, at this stage, the 8 prodromal cells divide by anticlinal division to form the embryonic surface layer or the epidermis. The 8 inner cells divide in different planes to form the ground meristem and procambium of cotyledon, hypocotyledon and plumule. The suspensor cells situated at the terminal end of the suspensor is called as the suspensor cell situated at the terminal end of suspensor is called as the hypophysis. The hypophysis, which is present on the micropylar side, then divide transverse and longitudinally to form the multiple layers of cells, and ultimately it develops into the ultimately it forms the cortical initials of the radicle. The cells of the middle and outer, thus all the cells derived from the hypophysis give rise to root apical meristem. So, this means this portion is actually give rise to the root. At this stage, the developing embryo is globular and show radial symmetry. It is called as proembryo. The proembryo is transformed into embryo with the development of the radicle and the radicle, plumule and the cotyledons. The 2 cotyledons, these are the dicot plants, 2 cotyledons are developed into the embryo and it becomes a it becomes the heart shaped embryo. Cotyledons grow rapidly, whereas few cells between the bases of 2 cotyledons differentiate to form a dome shaped plumule. The plumule is actually which give rise to the stem in the developing plant. So, this is the development of embryo in the case of dicot plant or dicotyledon plant, whereas in the case of monocot plant or monocotyledon plant, the initial stages of the embryonic development up to the 8th stage or the proembryo formed is same, means the zygotes to proembryo stage is always same. After that there are few changes. What are these changes? In the case of monocotyledon plant, about one half of the terminal cell derived function as shoots apex, whereas the remainder of the cell showed a rapid rate of cell division in the formation. So, the only difference is that in this case there is a rapid rate of cell division to form a single cotyledon, whereas in the case of dicot plant there is a growth of two cotyledon plant. Rest all stages are almost same as whether it is the monocot plant or the dicot plant. So, this is all about the development of embryo sac, development of the endosperms as well as the development of embryo within the angiospermic plant following the fertilizations. The ovule is what going to develop into the seed, and that is also has the different developmental stages. So, the zygote is going to develop into the embryo and the ovule is going to develop into the seed, and the main purpose of the seed is to protect the embryo and also to provide the nutrition. So, there are multiple steps which are involved in the development of seed. What are these steps? So, the endosperm which is present, which is developed during post fertilization, may either be remain there or it may be completely been used following the digestion to provide the nutrition for the during the embryogenesis. That seed that in that case the seed having the enough quantities of endosperm are called as albuminous seeds, whereas in the seed where the endosperm is being used for the embryogenesis basically does not contain the large quantity of food material, and these kind of seeds are known as the X albuminous. X albuminous seeds normally contains the food in the form of cotyledons. For example, many types of pulses, for example, the gram or other kind of pulses. So, pulses normally contains the food in the form of cotyledons, whereas the fruits normally contains the food material in the form of endosperms. The nucellus is generally being used up during the development of embryo, but in some cases it remain outside the endosperm in the form of a thin layer called as the perisperms. The outer integuments. So, the multiple structures which are present in the embryo sac are being developed into the multiple anatomical structures within the seed. So, in this case the nucellus is generally being used up during the development of embryo, but in some cases it remain outside in the endosperm in the form of a thin layer called as the perisperms. Whereas the outer integuments becomes the hard and leathery testa or the seed coat, which ensures the proper survival of the seeds. So, testa is actually the hard covering what you see outside any seed, and it has to be broken by the growing embryo to come out as a plant. The inner integuments actually forms the tegmen, and the micropyle remains in the form of a fine pore. So, micropyle is present in the seed as well, and it remains in the form of a fine pore, and the funicular is transferred into the stalk of the seed, so that it holds the embryo, and the hilum marks the point of attachment to the stalk. The seed of the most plants germinates when you sow them when you provide them the suitable growing conditions. So, the germination of a seed has multiple steps, and let us see what are these steps. So, as we discussed, the seed is present within a very hard coat. So, and seed contains enough food material either in the form of the endosperms or in the form of cotyledons. So, but most of these seeds are present in a dormant stage, okay? Because so even if you provide them the suitable growing conditions, they do not grow very easily, and these kind of plants are known as the dormant seeds. So, the seeds which does not grow even after providing suitable growing condition are called as dormant seed. So, dormant seeds are, or why the some class of plants have evolved to have the dormant seed, because they want to protect so because they are looking for the most suitable conditions for growth, and until that condition is not there, they keep the seed to be in the into the dormant stage, because once a seed starts germinating and it starts its metabolic activities, then it will form the shoot and roots on both end of the plant onto the seed, and after that if the growing conditions are not suitable, this particular plantlets is going to die. So, to avoid that kind of conditions, because you can imagine that if the temperature outside is very high, there is no humidity and there is no nutrition available, under those kind of adverse environmental conditions, the plant will think about not to grow, because the metabolic activities within the seed can be confined or can be stopped to such an to a large extent, but it cannot be once the seed starts growing, starts the germinations. So, in the germination, what is required? You need a water, you need the oxygen, you need the proper light, and you need the moisture. So, what happen is, as soon as you sow a seed, okay, so this is the seed, and as soon as you sow this seed into suitable environment or into the soil, first of all the dormancy is broken down. So, the first process what is going to happen is the dormancy is going to be broken down, means the conditions which are keeping the seed under the dormant condition is going to be removed, and this is always been done by having a very high concentration of the oxygen and the gibberellic acid. So, in those cases the dormancy is going to be broken down, and once the dormancy is broken down, that actually will activate the proteolytic enzyme. What this proteolytic enzyme will do? They will convert the food material which is stored either in the form of the which is stored within the seed into energy, and this energy is being used up by the embryo, or this energy will be used by the embryo, and as a result the embryo will develop the shoot on the top side, and root on the bottom side. And as soon as, so initially it will form the primary roots, and then the primary roots will develop into the secondary root, and then it will have the professional kind of well developed roots, and then the roots will go into the soil, and they will start they will start sucking the nutrition, which may be like water and minerals, etc. Whereas the shoot will start growing and start developing the leaves. Initially the leaves will be in brown color, but slowly the leaves are going to turn into green. As soon as the leaves will start showing the green, it will start showing the photosynthesis. This means it starts converting the carbon dioxide to glucose, and that is how the shoot will start growing and start providing the nutrition to the root. The root is start providing the water to the shoot, so that the complete so shoot will get the proper water, because we have discussed also that during the photosynthesis the water is required for going through the photolysis, so that it releases the electrons, and that is how the seed is going to germinate into the new plantlets. So, apart from the seed, the ovule is getting developed into the seed, whereas the ovary is getting developed into the fruits. So, as we discussed, the ovary is going to develop into the fruits. So, let us see how the fruits is developed into the angiospermic plant. So, the fruits are developed into the angiospermic plant, and a true fruit is formed as a result of cell division, expansion and differentiation in the ovary. The ovary is transformed into a fruit as a result of stimuli received from the pollination as well as from the developing seeds. So, as soon as there is a pollination happens, as soon as there is a seed is formed, the fruit development starts. So, after receiving these kind of stimulation from the pollination as well as from the seed, the ovules present inside the ovary are transformed into the seed, and the wall of the ovary is transformed into the pericarp. So, technically there are two different types of fruits which are being formed in the angiospermic plant. One is called as the true fruits. The true fruits are derived from the ovary of the flower, and it does not contain any other plant parts. The classical example in this case is brinjal, mango, grapes, tomato, etc. Whereas, in some cases the fruit is derived from the ovary, but it also contains the other accessory floral part, and these kind of fruits are called as the false fruit. The example in this case are apple and the fig. So, why there is a fruit formation? The fruit is formed in the angiospermic plant because they have the multiple roles. One of the role of the fruit itself is that it normally has a very large protecting covering outside the seed. So, seed has a protecting covering in the form of a coat, but outside the coat the fruit is having a fleshy tissue. So, fleshy tissue actually contains large quantity of water, and that water is going to protect the seeds from not getting dehydrated. and it will allow the seeds to grow to go for the larger number of time. The other advantage of having a fruit in the angiospermy plant is that in the advantage of taking the nutrition through this fleshy material or the mesocarp, the animals normally eat the fruits, and that's how they contribute into the dispersal of seeds from one place to another place. So, fruit has two important functions. One, it protects the developing seeds. The number two, it helps in dispersal of seed from one place to another place. There are multiple issues with the fruit development. In some cases, the fruits are not being developed fruit seeds are developed without having the proper fertilization, and this kind of fruit development is known as the parthenocarpy. So, as we discussed, fruit has two important functions. It actually protects the seed from dehydration. Number two, it helps in dispersal. So, these are the two functions of the fruits, and what we were discussing, we are discussing about the parthenocarpy or parthenocarpic fruits. So, what is mean by parthenocarpy is that fruits develops without seeds, and it can be done in three different ways. In one, where no pollination. So, in this case there is no pollination is happening, but the fruits are developing, and the example in this case is the banana or the citrus fruits. Now, number B, where the pollination is happening, but no fertilization. Okay. And the example in this case are orchids. Number C, where there is a fertilization, but post fertilization, when the embryo is formed, the embryo is not developing into the embryo or the zygote is not developing into the seed, and which is getting aborted. So, in this case there is a fertilization. So, there is a fertilization, but there is a abortion of embryo, for example, in the case of grapes. So, parthenocarpy is a natural phenomena. It happens in some of these classes of plant, and it actually allows the plant to produce the fruits without having the seeds, and because these plants does not contain the seeds or they are devoid of the seeds, this kind of phenomena is having a very high economical values, because the people don't, it becomes a seedless plants, and seedless fruits are always been preferred because it gives more, it becomes more tasty and it increases the economical value. Because of this, there are so many artificial way in which the parthenocarpy is also being induced in different plants, And what happen is, in this case, what the farmers are doing, they are spraying a very low concentration of auxin and gibberellin. So, you can have the artificial way of, you can have the artificial chemicals or artificial parthenocarpy by having a low concentration of auxin and gibberellic acid to induce the parthenocarpy, and that is how you can actually increase the economical value of some of the fruits. For example, the seedless grass, seedless grapes or the seedless watermelons. Now, we will discuss the next topic which is related to the parthenocarpy, and that is called as the apomixis. So, in the apomixis, so in the parthenocarpy, what we have discussed? We have discussed that there is a development of fruits without having the seed formation, whereas in the case of apomixis, is actually the development of embryo without the fertilization. So, development of embryo without fertilization. So, apomixis is actually being considered to be a kind of asexual reproduction, and it could be of three different types. What are these types? One is called adventive embryony, so in the case of adventive embryony, the embryos are directly being developed from the diploid sporophytic cells such as the integuments of the ovules. So, in the case of the adventive embryony, the embryos are directly being developed from the diploid part of the sporophytic cells such as the adventive and integuments of the ovules. The examples in this case are the citrus. B, you can have the parthenogenesis. So, in this case, in the case of parthenogenesis, the embryos are developed from the unfertilized eggs. Number C, it is called as the apospory or the apogamy. So, in this case, the embryos are developed from any other cell except the any other cell present in the embryo sac without the fertilization. Now, what you can see that if there is a plant which goes for the apomixis, and if the same plant is also going for the sexual reproduction, it is also so what is the condition? See, it is going to have a very strange conditions, and what is that strange conditions? So, you can imagine that a plant is going for the sexual reproduction and developing an embryo 1 within the embryo sac, and a plant which is similar plant, if it is going with the apomixis, is developing the embryo number 2. So, this means if the plant goes for the apomixis as well as the sexual reproduction, it is going to have the multiple embryos in the seed, and this condition is known as the polyembryony. Okay. So, polyembryony is happening because the plants are also going for the apomixis and they are also going through the usual mode of sexual reproduction. So, in that case the multiple embryos are being developed within the seed or within the growing ovary or growing ovule, and so that results into a strange conditions known as the polyembryony. So, with this we would like to conclude our lecture here, and we have discussed many aspects of the sexual reproduction into the angiospermic plant, and I hope you might have enjoyed the content of this lecture and it might be helpful for your understanding about this process, and it may help you to address or understand many aspects of this particular important topic. Thank you.